The G-Man has almost always been portrayed as a lone wolf, one single titan capable of either saving or destroying the entire world. While there are plenty of other kaiju out there in the MonsterVerse and all the different series of Godzilla films throughout the decades, we've only really seen one or two films that had two full-grown Godzillas in them. The most recent being the anime Monster Planet that had Godzilla Earth and Phyllis. These two aren't necessarily separate Godzillas, so it's a bit complicated, but we'll talk more about these guys later on. So I know some of you hardcore Godzilla fans are probably thinking, what about Manila? What about Godzilla Jr.? Don't worry, we are going to be talking about Manila Ice and the other guy. Manila, well, is dumb. Straight to the point there, I'm sorry. But outside of opinions, this baby Godzilla of sorts was for a long time the only other Godzilla-like creature to appear alongside the G-Man. But this Frogzilla thing appeared randomly from an egg that has no trails leading back to Godzilla. Godzilla Jr. has a much more interesting upbringing, as he was originally an egg from the Godzillasaurus, the real-life dinosaur that Godzilla was inspired from. Got ya! That thing is fake as hell. But this was how it went in the lore. The egg was found and eventually hatched. After growing up and receiving various massive batches of radiation throughout its life, it grew to become another gigantic Godzilla monster. Zilla, while not being a normal Godzilla, had plenty of offspring, clearly making this version of the King of the Monsters able to not be the only of his kind. If you continue this story with the Godzilla animated series, one lone egg hatches and goes on to become another Godzilla, but only one, and I do not recall this second Zilla having the ability to reproduce asexually like his father. The series even had one episode focusing on the G-Man searching and eventually discovering a mate, leading up to the couple having an egg. But sadly, this turtle-looking mofo ruined that, and we never got to see the awesome hybrid that surely would have come from this egg. No matter what adaptation of Godzilla, there seems to always be a trend of having only one Godzilla on screen or in the story at once. Time after time, if another Godzilla shows up, the other one is going to have to croak in order for the new one to live on. Back to Monster Planet's Godzilla Earth and Phyllis. And we once again have the reoccurring take of Phyllis dying and then Godzilla Earth retaking his place as the current Godzilla. Phyllis was never really another Godzilla though, as he was created from Godzilla Earth being so awesome pretty much. Naturally, even in this made-up fantasy world, Phyllis would never have emerged if it wasn't for Godzilla Earth taking over the planet. Now let's get to the legendary film's Godzilla. As far as everything in this series has told us so far, this is the only Godzilla that will be showing up throughout the upcoming MonsterVerse films. This doesn't mean that he is the only one though. During the first part of the 2014 Godzilla film, when Ken Watanabe and the rest of the scientists walked into a cave that held the skeleton of an ancient titan, it seemed like this skeleton belonged to a strange snake-like monster. But later on, it was confirmed to quite likely be another individual from Godzilla's species within the commentary for the film. Now this is a pretty big deal because it sets up so many possibilities. Was this a member of Godzilla's family? How did it die? Was there multiple Godzillas walking around all at once at the same time? The questions could go on and on. The question that this does answer, however, is if this Godzilla was the only one of his kind to ever exist. And if you go by this, then he is not. He may be the only Godzilla currently alive in the timeline, but that doesn't mean there weren't others of his kind in the past. And we can't rule out there being another Godzilla still deep in slumber somewhere under the Earth's crust, just waiting for Godzilla to die so it can take his place. As freaking awesome as it would be to see two Godzillas whooping ass on the screen at the same time, or maybe even fighting one another, I think it's best that there is ever really just one on screen at once. It makes this individual more special and even more godlike than if there were more of his kind around. 60 plus years of Godzilla films doing it this way, why stop now? Alright residents, if you like this video, make sure to do all that YouTube stuff that all of us have to say now to get you guys able to see our videos. So what do you think? Should there only ever be just one Godzilla in a film at a time? Or do you want an all-out G-Man riddled orgy fest of a movie to eventually come out where they're just messing each other up and fucking shit up? Let us know. As always, residents, this has been Jacob, and peace out.